Good morning still. And actually, it just turned noon. Valerie, senior editor of the Hollywood Times, and I'm so happy to have my guest here, and I'm going to have her introduce herself. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Mikayla Schwar. I am the director, producer, and editor of The Kids Are Not All, which is a feature documentary about the long-lasting impacts of the troubled teen industry.
Yes, and it will be at Dancing with Films. It will show on June 29th here at the Chinese Theater. Mikaela, thank you again for joining us. This film took nearly a decade to complete. Can you talk about the moment you knew you had to tell this story and how it evolved over the years?
Sure. So I grew up in Phoenix, and as a teenager myself, I was my first awareness of this industry. I saw a lot of kids from my high school get sent away and disappear from high school. And I didn't think all that much about it for about 20 years. And I was actually doing a film, starting to do research for a project on Synanon, which is essentially a cult group that used attack therapy and used attack therapy on children at one time. And in my research for that, I really started to realize that group off the troubled teen industry. And in speaking with a journalist named Maya Szalavitz, I started to learn about the long lasting impacts of these places, which I had never thought about. When kids came out of there and maybe turned to drugs or just weren't assimilating into society, I felt like nobody had really stopped to ask, had something happened in those places? They were written off as bad kids who went to these troubled teen programs. And that week, John Martin Crawford, who was a big activist in this space against the troubled teen industry, had died by suicide. And so really learning about the long lasting impacts of these places on families and the people who went through them just became something really urgent for me. And I shifted my focus to do this film right away. I actually went and met Liz Elli, one of our main contributors, like within 2 days. So I just wanted to learn more and hear these stories.
Yeah, the film centers on the survivor, Liz Elli's incredible journey, including her advocacy in a major federal investigation. How did you approach documenting something so personal yet so urgent?
It took a lot. It took time. I think I really wanted to make sure these survivors knew they could trust me. They had been through a lot, and I'm a filmmaker coming in. I'm not a therapist. I really wanted to be careful about treating people's stories of trauma. And so I think I built a relationship with each person first and foremost over time. And then we really didn't know where this story was going to go with Liz 10 years ago. And so it was very gradual. She was starting to do work and really pick up the baton from John's activism, but it was a slow process over these years. And so by the time we got to the federal case, I think we had such a close relationship at that point that it was easy to follow that path. But we almost ended the film many years before with no real ending. And so it's also one of those somewhat benefits of doing an indie film is that you can continue to follow the story as it goes. And so, yeah, we were able to follow that arc to a pretty incredible ending.
Yeah. Well, you shared that you turned down early offers from studios who wanted to shape the film around more sensational tropes. Can you talk about that decision and how it reflects your broader values as a storyteller?
Yeah, I think we originally, when I started the film about 10 years ago, I really did want to make a quieter film about personal stories and the long lasting impacts. And at that point, people weren't really speaking about the industry. And so we also had experts and journalists and people to bolster the stories. I wasn't fully sure people would believe the survivors at that point. And then in 2020, Paris Hilton came out with her story, and there was a really big boom in interest in this story. And that was wonderful. I think that was great. And a lot of stories have come out since then, which I think are all really incredible. For us, what that did, though, was allow us to actually go back to our original vision a bit. We didn't feel we needed the celebrity, or we didn't need to do some of this other kind of investigative big story work anymore because other projects were doing that. And so for us, we had already spent 5 years at that point telling very personal, intimate stories that we didn't really want to shift it just to make a sale in a way. And for us, it ended up being actually like a bonus. It's hard to bring a film back and make it indie, but at the same time, I think that was just the right choice for this film.
The film critiques the for-profit troubled teen industry, a system often shrouded in secrecy. Did you face resistance while filming, either from institutions or others that are invested in keeping this story quiet?
Not a ton, to be honest. So we focused really on some programs that are already closed. And I think we weren't, and we had the proof. There were lawsuits already about abuse and sexual assault and neglect in these places. And so I don't know that it was in their benefit necessarily to try to come after us. We certainly, with the trial ongoing, when we premiered at Dances with Films in New York, that was certainly something we were hesitant about a little bit because the trial actually hadn't happened. And so we wanted to make sure we were really buttoned up and didn't want to hurt any case. And actually, LA will be our first screening of our new ending that incorporates the trial that happened in March.
Yeah, wow. You also have a strong background in editing. And before we started the record button, I know you're not the only editor, but you wear a lot of hats with this film. How did wearing both the director and editor hats did it impact any of the pacing or emotional arc of the film?
Yeah, the film took a lot of different, even tones and different avenues. Again, like at first, it was a bit more investigative with these lawyers and journalists. And then we really shifted the film a few different times over the past 10 years. And for me as the director, I think, again, because I was so close to the people in my film and eventually really just invested in the topic, I did want other people and fresh eyes to come in and help me with the edit. And so I was very fortunate to work with Veronica Pinkham and Allegra Garofalo, who just really have incredible sensibilities. And so I love collaborating and editing in all I do in my day job as well. I just think it's a great process and it helps the edit to evolve in different ways than maybe if you're doing it solo. Yeah, I'm really happy with being able to edit it as well, though. I think that's a gift, especially when you don't have a ton of funding. Eventually, at the end, it was really helpful to be able to just go in and finish it on my own.
Yeah, congratulations on that. I know you've worked on high profile true crime projects like Alan v. Farrow and HBO's Last Call. Was there anything different about directing The Kids Are Not All Right, where you were responsible for shaping the entire story from beginning to finish?
Yeah, I think it's just a completely different experience. When I'm editing, I often don't know the people on the other side of it. On Alan v. Farrow, I was a field director in a way, and so I did go on some shoots, on the Verite shoots. So I was able to connect with both Mia and Dylan. But with this, it is different. These are people's lives that I do feel responsible for in sharing their stories and creating in this way. It's just a completely different responsibility that I feel on my shoulders versus when I'm editing something with a little bit of distance to it.
Yeah, as we start winding down the interview, how can viewers support the survivors that are featured in the film and stay informed about legislation or advocacy around the troubled teen industry?
Yeah, I think we are certainly hoping to do a robust impact campaign. We're going to take the film into the educational market through schools, conferences. We really want to engage not only survivors and supporting survivors just to be heard. I think that was one of the biggest things that came out of when I first started speaking with people. Were just so happy someone was listening. And I think that's really important. A lot of people that come to our screenings sometimes say, oh, my sister went to one of these places, or I knew someone, and we've never talked about it. So I think just actually engaging in discussions with people in an understanding way who went through these experiences is really important. We certainly want to educate parents on the dangers of these places. My belief is really the way you stop an industry like this is by stopping people going. Otherwise, they will continue to morph and find ways to get money in. And then there's a lot of really great organizations that are doing work around legislation. There's one called In Silence Now. There's a lot of different survivor groups that are doing a lot of great work. And so we're trying to promote any of that on our Instagram page and to follow along there.
Okay. Please let our viewers and readers know, how can they find out more about this film and more about you? Website or social media?
Yeah, we have an Instagram page, which is the best place to look at all news, which is The Kids Are Not All Right Doc. And then our website is also thekidsarenotallrightdoc.com. And we'll keep posting more screenings and more news there to come.
Great. Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you virtually. We'll
Great
probably
to meet
see you
you.
over at the Chinese Theater. I know on June 29th, that's when your wonderful movie will air. We are the HollywoodTimes.today, and that's our website, and the Hollywood Times Official is our YouTube channel. Thank you, Mikaela, so much for being with us and for this important message that everyone needs to learn about if they don't already.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.